From the moment I could understand words, I was the redundant one. My older sister Ashley had coined the nickname, and it stuck. She never called me by my real name. Soon enough, even Mom and Dad forgot it too. Redundant became my identity, a constant reminder that I was, supposedly, an unwanted presence in our family. Today the house sparkled. Mom and Dad had cleaned every nook and cranny, adorning the rooms with vibrant, joyful decorations. The moment the celebratory firecrackers died down outside, Mom, radiant in a figure-hugging red cheongsam, rose with a wide smile to greet our esteemed guests, the Millers. "Oh, it's so wonderful you've come all this way," she cooed, ushering them inside. "Please make yourselves comfortable." It was Ashley's engagement day. She and my parents warmly welcomed her future in-laws. Ashley clasped her fiancé, Ethan's, hand intimately, a blossoming smile never leaving her face. Ethan, her fiancé, was incredibly handsome today, so much so that even I, in my ethereal state, felt a pang of admiration. During their conversation, Ethan's mother suddenly inquired, "I heard you have another daughter? I don't see her around." The room fell silent. Mom was the first to recover, chuckling as she shook her head. "Oh, redundant. She's so inconsiderate. She wouldn't even bother to come to her sister's engagement." But I was there. I was right there, floating above them, staring down at every single person in the room. The engagement ceremony concluded. Ethan gently led Ashley to a private room to rest. I drifted above them, my gaze fixed on Ashley. The moment she sat down, her eyes, filled with a melancholic sadness, met Ethan's. "Ethan," she whispered, "I'm sure Ruby hates me so much she couldn't even bear to attend our engagement." I truly marveled at her ability to lie so effortlessly, without a flicker of change in her expression. It was she who had told Mom and Dad to make sure I wasn't there, and yet she could utter those words with such ease. Ethan frowned, pulling Ashley into a comforting embrace. "Ashley, she betrayed me. She has no right to hate you. Someone like her, it's better if she doesn't show up. Less trouble for everyone." Hearing this, I screamed, a furious, silent wail that no one could hear. "It's not true. I never betrayed you." But Ethan would never hear my cries. He used to be my boyfriend. But after visiting my home once, he abruptly broke up with me. No matter how much I pleaded, he wouldn't come back. Half a month later, he announced he was dating Ashley. I never understood why until yesterday. Until I overheard their conversation at home, and the truth finally dawned on me. 6 months ago, I brought my boyfriend home for dinner for the first time. After the meal, Ashley called me into her room. It was rare for her to speak to me so amiably. "Redundant," she said. "Your boyfriend isn't bad. Give him to me, okay?" Thought she was joking. Only later did I realize she was deadly serious. After my boyfriend and I left, Mom and Dad secretly called him back to the house. This time he heard some terrible things about me from Ashley. She told him I was a kept woman, having an affair with an old man and playing him for a fool. She even presented intimate photos of me and that man as proof. I couldn't believe Ashley still had those pictures. If it hadn't been for her, I wouldn't have gone through that ordeal years ago. Ashley had always been an excellent student, but in her final year of college, she rushed into an internship and missed a crucial graduation assignment. Facing the risk of not graduating, she tricked me into going to a hotel, drugged me, and put me in her professor's bed. If I hadn't fought for my life, I might have fallen into that monster's clutches. After I escaped, Ashley used those pictures to blackmail the professor. Ultimately, she graduated with honors. When I came home and told Mom everything, she simply gave me a cold smile. "You're fine, aren't you? You didn't lose anything. At most, just a membrane. And you didn't even lose that. What about Ashley? She sacrificed for you a little, so what? After all these years of raising you, you're going to complain about something so trivial." That moment I lost all hope. From then on, I stopped arguing with Mom and Dad about myself. My boyfriend, seeing those intimate photos, was furious. He couldn't believe I was such a despicable person. He didn't doubt anything, since it all came from my own family, my own flesh and blood. How could they lie to frame me? That night, in his grief, my boyfriend drank himself into a stupor. Under Mom and Dad's arrangement, he was put into Ashley's bed. Half a month later, they went public with their relationship. Even after Ashley and my ex became a couple, Mom and Dad weren't at ease. They feared I would cause trouble. To prevent this, they wouldn't even let me come home, forcing me to live alone in an apartment near my company. Only when Ashley was about to get engaged did they finally relax. They told me to come home, to witness Ashley's glorious moment. That's when I accidentally stumbled upon the long-hidden secret. Froze. Mom saw me and gasped, her eyes wide with panic. "You heard everything, didn't you?" she stammered. Tears welled in my eyes, a surge of resentment overflowing in my heart. "Mom, we're both your daughters. Why do you treat me this way?" she angrily retorted. "My only daughter is Ashley. If you dare to utter a word and ruin tomorrow's engagement, don't blame me for being unkind." Despairingly, I returned to my room, packing my bags, intending to leave. I couldn't stay in this house any longer. Soon there was a knock at the door. Mom stood there with a glass of milk. Seeing me open the door, she offered it to me. "I was harsh earlier. Drink this milk and get some rest. Don't think too much." It was the first time in my memory she had spoken to me so gently. My heart trembled, my hand unconsciously reaching for the milk. I drank it all in one gulp. Looking back now, even if I had known it was poison, I wouldn't have hesitated. Because when Mom handed me the milk, she smiled at me. It was the first time she had ever smiled at me. Minutes later, I felt drowsy. I wanted to leave, but my eyelids were heavy as lead. Finally, I completely lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, a terrifying pair of eyes stared back at me. I struggled to sit up, only to find myself bound tightly with ropes. "Let me go right now, or I'll call the police." He smirked, revealing a set of white teeth. His smile particularly vicious and frightening. "Your parents tied you up. Are you going to call the police on them?" Memories flooded back. I recognized the man in front of me. The youngest son of the neighbors upstairs, David. He was a quiet man. After his parents died, he lived alone, always by himself, never interacting with anyone. Everyone considered him a monster. Mom and Dad, fearing I would ruin Ashley's engagement, had drugged my milk and locked me in David's apartment upstairs. A fire of rage ignited within me. I began to struggle, screaming at David to release me. David, angered by my struggles, swung his hand and slapped my face hard. I was stunned for a moment, unable to believe it. I looked up at him, and in his eyes I saw excitement. Next, he put something in my mouth to silence me, then used all sorts of tools to beat me until I stopped breathing. After I died, David wasn't flustered. He expertly opened the refrigerator and shoved my body inside. The refrigerator was too small to fit my whole body, so he used an electric saw to cut my body into pieces, then shoved them in one by one. I was dead. My own parents had handed me over to a demon to be tortured to death. What they desired every day had finally come true. "Are you satisfied, Mom and Dad?" I was dead, my body still in the refrigerator upstairs. My soul had no place to reside, unable to leave the building, only able to wander between the two apartments. I hovered above the dining table, smelling the food, watching them eat without me. Their smiles were brighter than ever. The table was laden with all of Ashley's favorite dishes. Mom and Dad constantly served her, while Ethan lovingly peeled shrimp and placed them in front of her. The whole family was joyful. Ashley was like a pampered child, showered with everyone's love, unlike me, the redundant one, born a surplus. From a young age, I knew I wasn't loved in this family, but I foolishly hoped that through my obedience, I could earn a little affection from Mom and Dad. Now I know how wrong I was. Not only did they not love me, they hated me. When Mom was pregnant with me, the village midwife praised her, saying the fetus showed good signs and was definitely a boy. Hearing this, my grandmother knelt before Mom and Dad, begging them to keep the baby. In those years, the one-child policy was very strict. Dad was one of the few people in the village who worked for the government, with a stable job. But having a job also meant adhering to the one-child policy to maintain the Zhou family lineage. Mom and Dad insisted on keeping me, and as a result, Dad was reprimanded and fired from his job. It's ironic. I was only wanted when I was in my mother's womb. But when I was born and they discovered I was still a girl, Grandma fainted on the spot. After she woke up, she passed away within a month. Dad hated me for making him lose his good job and for making Grandma so angry she died. Mom hated me because I diminished the family's glory. If it hadn't been for me, Mom could have been the director's wife, not the wife of Dad's subordinate. Because of me, the second child was still a girl, and I became an existence that shouldn't have been in this family. Dinner ended. Ethan had to leave, leaving only Ashley sitting in the living room with Mom and Dad. Mom cut fruit and placed it in front of Ashley. "Eat lots of fruit, it's good for your skin," Ashley said. "Mom, is Redundant okay alone upstairs? Should we go check on her?" Mom didn't care. She just curled her lip. What could happen to her? It's better if she disappears. Seeing the hatred on Mom's face, my already cold heart sank even deeper. I desperately wanted to tell her, "Mom, this time, your wish has come true. I've disappeared from this world. I'll never appear again." But sadly, she would never hear my words again. Ashley hesitated. "Mom, I'm afraid Redundant upstairs will disturb the neighbors." She was always so deceitful. Her mouth spoke kind words, but in reality, she was just using me to protect her own interests. It wasn't that she was afraid I would disturb the neighbors. She was afraid that keeping me locked up for too long would spread rumors and negatively affect her reputation. Ashley always demanded perfection. In the eyes of the neighbors, she was always the perfect daughter, while I was the typical bad child, always the perfect scapegoat when she caused trouble. When we were little, every time she made a mistake, she always blamed me. No matter how much I tried to defend myself, it was useless. Even when I presented evidence, Mom sided with Ashley, protected her, and accused me of being a dangerous liar. With Mom's favoritism and protection, I became the most hated child in the neighborhood. To protect Ashley's image, Mom proactively called Dad and told him to go upstairs to find me. I felt a slight thrill. I followed Dad upstairs. Would he find me? Knock on the door. David, inside, woke up groggily. Last night, he had tormented me all night until he was exhausted and fell asleep at dawn. Looking at the man who killed me, my soul involuntarily trembled. Even though I was completely disappointed in Dad, I still hoped he would quickly discover my body and apprehend this disgusting, perverted murderer. David opened the door and saw Dad. He panicked. Dad politely asked, "David, where's my daughter, Redundant?" David lowered his head and mumbled, "She said she had a stomachache this afternoon, so I let her go home." "Didn't she come back?" Dad's face instantly darkened. Then he cursed under his breath. "That Redundant, what a waste of my time." "Well, David, I'm leaving now. You go back to rest." With that, Dad left. He didn't see the triumphant smile that appeared on David's face the moment he turned his back and walked downstairs. Watching Dad's retreating figure, I completely despaired. Clearly, if he had just looked a little closer, just a little, he could have noticed the panic on David's face, noticed his abnormality. But he didn't. He just left, leaving me in that cold refrigerator. I no longer thought about revenge. I didn't even hope David would be caught. Someone like me, whom even my own parents wanted dead, completely gone from this world, what value could I have for others to care about? I was just trash, a pile of garbage that needed to be cleaned up and vanish into thin air. A few days later, one morning, Mom and Dad returned from the market and found the area below the building cordoned off by police tape. They curiously peeked and whispered with the neighbors. I stood on the floor above, looking through the window, seeing the curiosity clearly in their eyes. Mom curiously asked Mrs. Smith, who lived next door, "Mrs. Smith, what's going on?" Mrs. Smith mysteriously replied, "Haven't you heard, the Zhou family?" That youngest son of the millers upstairs, David, is a perverted murderer. He committed a crime last night and was caught red-handed. The police are cordoning off the area to find evidence. It's truly terrifying. Mom and Dad were extremely shocked. Hearing murderer, they were also scared, but their fear was mixed with curiosity. Mom continued to pry. I can't believe something like this happened. Who would have thought that boy, who usually doesn't say a word, would be so perverted behind everyone's backs? Mr. Johnson, who lived across the street, provided new information. I heard he didn't just kill one person. He also hid bodies in his house. Everyone shivered, their faces pale with fright. Several forensic officers in police uniforms came down from upstairs, carrying many things. Sealed black bags emitted a foul, fishy smell. Everyone scattered in fear, no one wanting to be associated with such bad luck. The forensic officers also carried several transparent evidence bags. As Mom looked, she saw a transparent bag containing my jade ring. It still had bloodstains on it. It was the only gift Mom ever gave me. The ring was too small for Ashley to wear, so it ended up with me. I saw a flicker of horror in Mom's eyes. She opened her mouth, unable to speak. No, it can't be. The very next second, she suddenly lunged forward. Mom was almost touching my belongings when Dad unexpectedly rushed to stop her and pull her away. What are you doing? Mom looked at Dad in a panic, trembling. That's... Her words were cut short as Dad covered her mouth with his hand. I hovered by the nearby tree, seeing clearly the unhidden horror in Dad's eyes. Not just Mom, he probably also suspected something. Dad pulled Mom to a secluded corner of the small garden and sternly warned her. Don't bring trouble upon yourself. Mom whispered. But that's Redundant's ring. I can't be mistaken. So what if it's Redundant's? Dad retorted dismissively. Who knows if she dropped it before she left? We should avoid trouble. If the neighbors find out we sent Redundant to someone like that, who knows what they'll say? But Mom was about to say something else when Dad cut her off. Dad impatiently said, No buts. That girl is truly a disaster. A 1,000-year disaster. She's not that easy to die. Am I really a disaster? But even if I am, I'm dead now. When Mom and Dad find out the truth about my death, will they be happy? Finally, the disaster is gone. From now on, no one will bother them anymore. Just as Dad decided to take Mom to a hotel for a few days to avoid the situation, his phone suddenly rang. Hello, this is the Sunnyside Criminal Investigation Unit at the police station. I silently clung to Mom's back. I could cling to my relatives' bodies to leave the building. After receiving the call, Dad took Mom to the police station and I followed Mom there. As the officers prepared to lead them into the interrogation room, Ashley also appeared. Seeing Ashley, Mom immediately became agitated. Ashley, why are you here too? Ashley looked at Mom with a distressed expression, complaining. Mom, what's going on with that Redundant girl? The police brought me here. My colleagues don't know, they might think I committed a crime. I'm so embarrassed. My dear sister. Even at this moment, she couldn't forget to criticize me. Such deep sisterly affection. I clung to Mom's shoulder, looking at Ashley with a faint smile. After the police completed the basic procedures for them, they announced that the suspected victim was me. Mom immediately collapsed. Dad was stunned and Ashley frowned. While the police comforted them to remain calm, Dad suddenly asked, Officer, how will this affect us? The female officer was surprised for a moment. Perhaps she hadn't expected to encounter such a father. His daughter was brutally murdered, and not only were they not grieving, they were worried about how it would affect them. How ridiculous and heartless. Ashley was eager to go home. The police finished the procedures and allowed them to leave. The three of them walked out of the gate, supporting each other. Suddenly, a police officer rushed out and stopped them. You can't leave, Ashley angrily asked. Why not? Didn't we already finish the procedures? The officer sternly said. We now suspect that you are involved in this murder case. Please cooperate with our investigation." The three were separated and taken to different interrogation rooms for questioning. I still clung to Mom's back, following her into the interrogation room. The atmosphere in the room was very serious. Mom seemed nervous, her hands and feet trembling constantly. The female officer seriously asked, "Did you and David conspire to murder Ruby?" Mom looked up in fear. "Officer, redundant. Oh no, Ruby is my daughter. How could I harm her?" The female officer questioned loudly. "According to the suspect David's testimony, you drugged Ruby and handed her over to him to dispose of her. Is that true?" Mom panicked. She didn't know how to answer. She continuously tried to explain that she only took me to David's house for a temporary stay and didn't tell David to kill me. But when the police asked for her reason, she couldn't say anything. The same went for Dad. How could the Zhou family expose their dirty secrets? Because of David's accusation, Mom and Dad, from being the victim's family, had directly become suspects. Until there was evidence proving they were not involved in my case, they would not be able to leave the police station. Only Ashley remained. She claimed she knew absolutely nothing about this and even had an alibi. After Ethan bailed her out, she was released. Meeting Ethan, Ashley immediately threw herself into his arms. "Ethan, I'm so scared. Let's go home." Ethan pulled Ashley into the car, and I clung to Ashley's shoulder. The moment they got in the car, Ethan anxiously asked, "Ashley, what exactly happened? Is the victim really Ruby?" Ashley nodded unhappily, disdainfully saying, "That troublemaker. Even after dying, she still can't leave others alone." Ethan looked at Ashley in surprise. The next second, Ashley realized what she had said and quickly explained, "Ethan, I was just so angry that I misspoke." Ethan said nothing, but the look in his eyes changed. I sat beside them, observing the two of them with their different thoughts, and silently smiled. The old residential area couldn't keep a secret. After the police came to my house to search, the news that I was the victim spread throughout the neighborhood. A group of elderly people gathered in the small garden to discuss. I observed them talking from inside the house. Mr. Johnson mysteriously revealed a shocking piece of news. Has everyone heard? The Zhou family's daughter was murdered by Mr. and Mrs. Zhou themselves. Everyone was astonished. That's their own daughter. How could that be? Mr. Johnson disdainfully said. Why else would they be arrested? The deceased is their daughter. They should have been. That last statement, the victim's family, that's what they should have been, solidified the neighbors' suspicions. They now fully believed Mom and Dad were responsible for my death. Mrs. Smith, who usually seemed friendly with Mom, secretly chimed in. Do you all think the Zhou family are good people? Let me tell you, don't let their polite facade fool you. They're rotten inside. Their second daughter was tormented since she was little. It's no surprise something like this happened. Mrs. Smith and Mom had always seemed to get along well, so her words carried weight. I remember when I was 8, Ashley bullied me and I dared to fight back. Ashley ran to Mom, who then beat me relentlessly. As if that wasn't enough, in the middle of winter, Mom made me stand in the hallway wearing only a thin undershirt, kneeling from morning till night. She threatened to kick me out if I cried. I didn't dare, obediently kneeling there. Mrs. Smith walked by the hallway, glanced at me, and said something I still remember clearly. Blame your bad luck. You didn't even know to bring that with you when you were reborn. You deserve to suffer. Was I truly destined for this unfair treatment just because I wasn't a boy? I didn't get to choose my birth. If I had known I'd be treated so unjustly just for my gender, would I have chosen to be born? No, I wouldn't. Ethan and Ashley were arguing. He told her he wanted to postpone the wedding, which infuriated her. She demanded to know why. Everything was already arranged. Why would he postpone it now? How much more humiliation do you want me to endure? She shrieked. Do you know how many people will laugh at me? Ethan initially tried to reason with her patiently, but after Ashley's relentless badgering, he exploded. Your sister was murdered, and you're still worried about your reputation. "Ashley, how can you be so cold-hearted?" Ashley froze, staring at Ethan in disbelief. Once a crack appears, it's hard to contain. Ethan looked at her and pressed on. "In just 2 months, do you think your parents will be free? They haven't cleared their names in a murder case. If the wedding really happens now, that will truly be embarrassing." Ashley stared at him, instinctively trying to speak, but no words came out. Ethan walked away, his face colder than when he broke up with me. Ashley ran after him, but he didn't even turn his head. I knew then that Ashley's relationship was completely shattered. In recent days, I've been following Ashley. Her mood has grown increasingly dark. I watched her pull out her phone, and to my surprise, she dialed my number. When no one answered, she finally realized I was dead. Angrily, she threw her phone onto the sofa. Before, whenever she was unhappy, she would curse at me to vent her anger. Sometimes when she was really furious, she would even choke me. She'd say, "Redundant, looking at your suffering face is truly satisfying." Now, without me, the redundant one, she didn't even have anyone to vent her anger on. Ethan hadn't contacted Ashley for a week. Ashley, who was normally so composed, grew increasingly agitated. She tried calling Ethan, only to find her number blocked. Seeing the anger and despair on her face, I laughed. When I was inexplicably dumped, I had the same expression. Ashley was different from me. She was more confident. Unlike me, who had carried an inferiority complex since childhood, she put on makeup, straightened herself out, and rushed out of the house to find Ethan and talk to him. Followed her there. The person who opened the door was Ethan's mother. Seeing Ashley, the smile on her face abruptly vanished. "Why are you here?" she asked. Ashley forced a smile. "Auntie, is Ethan home? Our family has had some issues lately, so I haven't been able to reach him. He's not answering his calls, so I came to check on him." It wasn't that she couldn't reach him. Her number was clearly blocked. Ethan's mother's voice was cold, lacking her usual warmth. "Ashley, if your family has problems, you should take care of them first. Ethan's been busy lately. I've sent him on a business trip with his father. He won't be back for several months." Hearing this, Ashley's expression crumpled. She said indignantly, "Auntie, Ethan and I are getting married next month. How can he go on a business trip for several months right now?" "Ashley, if you don't understand, I'll be blunt. Your family is so heartless, we are not satisfied. As long as I'm alive, don't expect to step foot in my house." With that, she tried to close the door. Ashley, aggrieved, tried to grasp her hand, but Ethan's mother shoved her away. Without a shred of pity, she said, "If you have any decency, stop bothering Ethan. Your sister was brutally murdered, your parents arrested, and you're still worried about getting married. You are a terrifying woman." With that, she mercilessly slammed the door, leaving Ashley outside, crying and pleading, but her heart remained unmoved. I stood there, silently watching Ashley's despair. At this moment, she seemed to be enduring a great injustice, but it still wasn't enough. What she had endured was still far less than what I had experienced. She didn't know how much pain and helplessness I felt when David, that monster, used all sorts of weapons to beat me. They were clearly right downstairs, yet they ignored my desperate cries for help. I could forget the past pain, hoping that when I was on the verge of death, desperately calling for help, they would help me a little. Even with a stranger, they wouldn't be so heartless. But they didn't. They just stayed downstairs, letting that monster drag me to hell. The case was still under investigation. My parents had not yet been exonerated. Ashley still couldn't reach Ethan. He had vanished from the world as if by cruel magic. To investigate the truth of the case, the police repeatedly sought out Ashley, requesting her cooperation and assistance. Rumors began to spread at her company. My death could no longer be kept a secret. Several curious colleagues took advantage of their lunch break to ask Ashley, "Ashley, we heard that in the recent serial murder case that was solved, one of the victims was your biological sister. Is that true? Why don't you look sad at all?" Ashley's face slowly darkened, but unfortunately, The colleague didn't notice and continued to ask, "Is your wedding next month still happening?" This question instantly ignited a furious rage in Ashley's mind. She had never been so insulted in her life. She grabbed the coffee cup on the table and threw it directly at her colleague's face. The scene immediately became chaotic. That day, Ashley was summoned by company management and temporarily suspended from work. They called it a temporary suspension, but in reality, they were advising her to leave the company on her own. The company simply didn't want to pay severance. On her way home, Ashley bought a lot of alcohol. As she drank, she didn't forget to curse at me. "Redundant. You troublemaker. It serves you right to die." Even when I was alive, she never treated me well, and she certainly never showed any sisterly affection. I was dead, but she still continued to curse me. How could a cold-hearted person like her deserve happiness? She drank more and more, her consciousness becoming increasingly hazy. She repeatedly called Ethan, but her number had been blocked for a long time, so how could she get through? In a fit of rage, she threw her phone towards the balcony. After throwing it, she regretted it. She rushed to the balcony to retrieve it, but her mind was no longer clear. Half of her body tilted out over the railing. She didn't catch the phone, and her whole body suddenly lurched downwards. Just as she was about to fall, she suddenly became alert, desperately gripping the railing, trying with all her might to climb up. I just stood by, silently watching her struggle in pain. Since she was little, she had never done any work. She hadn't even washed a single bowl. One could say her hands and feet were weak. Seeing her about to lose her grip, I unconsciously reached out. My hand passed through her arm. Right before my eyes she fell. She still thrashed her arms desperately, her eyes wide as if she could see my image. We just stared at each other like that, and I watched helplessly as she fell. Thud. A loud noise echoed. She hit the ground, blood continuously gushing from her head and mouth. My sister was dead right before my eyes. The news of Ashley's fall reached my parents. Dad was completely stunned. He couldn't accept that the daughter he loved most had passed away so suddenly. Mom was so frightened that her blood pressure skyrocketed, and she had to be hospitalized. After she was admitted, I remained by her side. When Mom woke up, the police immediately came to question her and take her statement. Mom's eyes were empty as she stared at the ceiling, muttering, "Retribution. It's all my retribution." My sister's death was too great a shock for her. She no longer hid anything and confessed the entire truth. The person taking Mom's statement was a young female officer. She looked at Mom in surprise and asked, "You mean you drugged Ruby and sent her upstairs so she wouldn't ruin Ashley's engagement?" "Yes." Mom no longer resisted. She confessed everything. She looked at the female officer regretfully and said, "It's all retribution. We abandoned Ruby, abandoned our own daughter. Heaven has taken back all our children to punish us." Looking at the tears of sorrow on Mom's face, I felt nothing inside. I didn't know if her tears were for the pain of losing 2 children or for the pain of divine punishment. But there was one thing she said that I thought was true. Heaven is just. She didn't want this child, and heaven helped her take back her children, so for the rest of her life, she would have no one to care for and comfort her. After a thorough interrogation by the police, David confessed the entire truth. Knowing he couldn't escape punishment, he thought he'd drag 2 more people down with him, so he accused my parents of also being involved in the incident. David made a request. He wanted to meet my parents. He said that as long as he could meet them, he would reveal every detail the police wanted to know. To confirm the details of the case, the police agreed to his request. The moment Dad received the news, he immediately refused the offer. He frantically questioned the police. "How can you make me confront such a cold-blooded killer? Do you know how terrifying this is?" I laughed to myself. So he knew fear. But did he ever consider how terrified and horrified I was when he, with his own hands, handed his daughter over to a monster? Under Dad's firm refusal, the police finally agreed to let him not participate. Mom was silent for a long time, then suddenly said, "Let me go." Dad looked at her in surprise. "Are you crazy? That's a ruthless murderer. Aren't you scared?" Mom looked at him without a word, quietly following the police out. The small interrogation room had only one table and 4 people. 2 police officers, Mom and David. When Mom and I entered the interrogation room and saw David, my soul trembled. I was so scared I wanted to scream to run away, but I wanted to know what David would say to Mom, and even more, I wanted to know Mom's thoughts at that moment. I wanted to ask her if she regretted it. I cowered, clinging to Mom's back, not daring to look directly at David. Just looking into his eyes would bring back the painful memories from before my death, making my soul restless. The police officer sitting next to Mom gestured for her to begin. Mom nervously asked, "David, why did you want to see me?" David chuckled, his smile vicious and malevolent. "Don't you want to know what happened to your daughter before she died?" Mom said nothing, her whole body trembling. David noticed this, and his eyes gleamed with triumph. He deliberately recounted the details of my murder. "I hit your daughter's head with a baseball bat. I poked her with chopsticks. She kept crying, continuously begging, until she was no longer conscious. She even called out, 'Mom!' She forgot who brought her here. She even called out, 'Mom, save me!' Mom trembled uncontrollably. She mumbled, 'Stop talking, you demon!' Ha!" David laughed loudly. "Me a demon? No, I am an angel who came to save your daughter. It was you who were the demons. It was you who handed her over to me. I only helped her escape her misery. The real executioners were you. I am the killer, but you were the ones who provided the weapon. The one who held her captive was your husband. I am not guilty. You are the ones who are guilty." David's continuous accusations caused Mom's blood pressure to skyrocket. Seeing Mom showing signs of instability, the police worried something might happen and quickly led her away, ending the conversation early. David confessed everything, and my parents' names were cleared of the murder charge. The 2 returned to the old residential area. Their former neighbors all avoided them. Not even a simple greeting. Everywhere Mom and Dad went, people stood behind them, pointing and whispering, "Those evil old people. So cruel. Even a tiger won't eat its cubs, yet they handed their daughter to a pervert. People's hearts are truly terrifying. That's the Zhou couple. Their hearts are so dark. Their second daughter was killed by them, and now their eldest daughter is gone too. It's truly retribution, sowing what you reap. People shouldn't be too cruel. No sons, no grandchildren, heaven has eyes." Every day, Mom and Dad had to endure insults. Some people even dumped rotten garbage in front of their house to express their indignation towards them. Dad couldn't bear such a life anymore. He advised Mom to move, but Mom stubbornly said, "Move? Move where? Who would even buy this house? Even though I didn't die in this house, the crime scene is right upstairs. This is still the house where I lived when I was alive. You could even call it a haunted house. Besides, I died so tragically. No one would dare to buy our house." Mom didn't want to leave. The next day, Dad packed his bags and returned to his hometown. He left Mom alone in the empty room, quietly crying. After Dad returned to his hometown alone, his life became incredibly difficult. All his life, he had lived under his mother's care, never even washing his clothes, let alone cooking or doing housework. Now, not only did he have no one to take care of him, but he also had to work in the fields every day to sustain his daily life. Nothing can be hidden forever. Even though his hometown was far from the city, the story of my family still reached it. Initially, the neighbors were curious about why Dad had suddenly returned alone. Now that they knew the truth, everyone cursed him behind his back. Serves him right. Even 3-year-old children in the village, when they saw Dad, would curse him as a bad guy. Dad's heart was filled with resentment, but he had nowhere else to go. The rest of his life was destined to be lived in coldness, loneliness, and contempt from others, just like what I experienced when I was little. After Dad left, Mom stayed home alone, haunted by nightmares every night. In just a few short months, she seemed to have aged 10 years, not only becoming much thinner but also having a head full of gray hair. My aunt met Mom, and when she saw her, she almost didn't recognize her. "Sister, why are you so thin?" Mom awkwardly replied. "I haven't been sleeping well lately. So many sudden changes in the family. Who could sleep well?" My aunt sighed. "I told you an old Joe back then. Even if you didn't like her, she was still your own flesh and blood. You shouldn't have treated Ruby like that. What happened? You didn't listen. Now see." This statement was like opening a floodgate, immediately igniting the pain in Mom's heart. She buried her head on my aunt's shoulder and cried loudly. "Sister-in-law, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated Ruby like that. If I had listened to you that day, none of this would have happened. Every night, I dream of her coming back to find me. She asks me why I didn't save her, why I handed her over to a monster." I sat beside her, silently watching Mom cry. Even if she regretted it now, I didn't want to forgive her. No one can completely let go after experiencing such pain. Besides, I knew very well that her regret wasn't for what she had done to me in the past. She only regretted the outcome she was suffering now. My aunt comforted her for a long time before Mom finally calmed down temporarily. My aunt said, "How about you become a vegetarian with me? Chant sutras and recite Buddha's name every day." Ashley and Ruby's paths weren't good. Consider it accumulating some good karma for your daughters, hoping that in their next lives, they can be reborn into better families. Mom found spiritual solace and immediately nodded in agreement. She was very determined. The next day, she went to find a temple and started living there. Seeing her clad in a blue monastic robe, the hatred in my heart suddenly vanished. Letting her live the rest of her life in loneliness, living with the faint glow of oil lamps, was also the greatest punishment for her. "I'm tired. My life ends here. I hope in my next life I can live happier."